Hey guys, I'm Tiffany, and we have Leisha Barnette teaching us about our personality, sun, and earth in human design today as part of the Lionsgate Summit is when we're originally recording this. And so the reason that we wanted to record it during this time is because of the sun activations in the astrology right now. The end of July, middle of August, we're going through a very significant astrological period for many reasons. But we wanted to give you this workshop on the personality sun because it offers the headline of your life. It helps you see your genetic destiny. So if you haven't looked up your human design chart yet, it gives you your genetic destiny for yourself, right? And so if you have been wanting to get out of the program, or if you've been running a program of crazy thinking thoughts, or if you felt off track, right? That's one of the number one things that you guys ask me in readings is, am I on track with my life? Is this the best thing for me? Well, fortunately, you can just go right to your personality sun and ask yourself some questions. And so this is an amazing time of year to be looking at that for yourself. But anytime you want to hop into looking at your personality, sun and earth, it's just going to impact you. It's going to impact you because we have Leisha teaching us. And Leisha, do you want to give us just a little background about yourself, how you got human design, and then we'll go right into it.
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. I met human design. Human design found me, as we often say. Luckily, it was in 2019, 3 years ago, and I immediately just was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the missing piece." And I had done a lot of, every metaphysical, personal work, any physical, any metaphysical, next level thing I had done. And there was a missing piece, kind of like you're talking about, like, am I on the right track? I'm missing something. And it came to me and I just knew that was it. And I dove straight in, started experimenting, which is the whole point of all of this. Start experimenting and see what you can see what changes, see what happens. And it has transformed my life already and continues to, in a way that's almost indescribable, and feels like this smoothness, like this, oh, that's really me. That's the piece I was missing. The whole unconscious piece is what I was missing, that was working in the background that I didn't know until human design. That's what it shows us. So
yes, and yeah. The astrology there's a huge awakening going on. So I think this is such a great time for a lot of people to hear some of the pieces from human design. And like you said, it's just an experiment. So you can mess around with it and find out, see what feels right for you, leave the rest. Human design, we have a couple of podcasts that we've already done. So if you're brand new, you can go to mybodygraph.com, get a free bodygraph, get yours. You need your birth date and time. And then we'll give you that article to look at too. But what's cool about human design, one of the first things that you told me that I was like, whoa, when I was getting my first foundational reading was that we went from a 7-centered being to a 9-centered being. And that is rocks you, and so there are a lot of concepts in human design that are different than what we are used to hearing, I would say, in kind of mainstream woo-woo stuff. And so I just invite you to open your mind and just get curious and see what might resonate for you. So let's talk about, what do you think? You want to talk about kind of the two imprints that happen and at birth? That was another.
Yeah, and I was wondering if it's helpful for me to go ahead and share my screen, so you can start to see the body graph, and because I want to show you the two imprints. Does that work for you, Tiff?
Yeah, totally. Sorry, my screen share. I'm always a step behind when that happens.
Oh, no worries. Okay, so can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the body graph, and as you can see, there are 9 centers. Now, a few hundred years ago, it corresponds with the discovery of Uranus. It's this whole thing. We went from a Saturnian lifestyle of 29, 30 years, where you had to be married by age 15, you had to have kids, you had to be working, all that, because you were living till 30. to this Uranian life cycle of 84. Now, within that 84, there was a shift in humanity, in consciousness, because this is all about the evolution of consciousness. It didn't stop. We didn't stop evolving. We're continuing to evolve. So a few hundred years ago, that we became these nine-centered beings. And the nine-centered being, it's not, in the seven chakras system, it's a linear movement of energy all going toward the mind, conquering our environment, securing resources to ensure that humanity continues to survive, and goes into the future and thrives. We've evolved past that. Humanity has survived. The resources have been secured. Check it off, tens of thousands of years. And so it's, there's 90,000 years of that linear way that energy moved. A few hundred years ago, it's like 200 years ago, the energy, is now this ping pong kind of energy. You see, it's not linear. If you look at this body graph, it's going over here and this is going over here. It's not all going toward the head. It's not all going toward thinking. We've evolved past thinking. Now we are meant to operate from awareness and seeing. However, like you were saying, Tiffany, with all the kind of woo-woo and metaphysical and spiritual concepts, a lot of them are still based in the seven-centered thinking, because that's 90,000 years of conditioning that we have behind us in our evolution. So this is new. This is new information we've only had for a couple of decades, and it's only been here for a couple of, we've only been mutated into this nine-centered being here to operate through awareness for a few hundred years. So yeah, I love that you kind of, as a foundation, we're looking at these two genetic imprints that happen at two different times. Now, we're familiar, like in the astrology world, that, at birth, we need our birth time, because that tells us how we were imprinted by where certain planets were, what, positioning they were in. And that was at the time of birth. However, what human design adds is, and so that's what we see here on the black side. This is called the personality, or the conscious side. We can work with this. We can identify this. This top gate is our personality sun. We absolutely know that this is us. We can work with that. It's how our life force expresses. We are very aware of it, okay? The added layer, which is kind of what I was talking about, like the missing piece. I'm missing something. There's something I don't know with how this is going on and how my life is moving, that I still haven't got it, with all the deep and wide, seeking I've done and experimenting. And that's this red side, okay? So this is the unconscious side. This imprinting happened around 90 days before birth. And this is all the genetic, this is the genetic destiny. This is the genetic history and inheritance that we receive from our father, the design sun. This is called the design side. It's unconscious. It's, we're not aware of it. So that's why the experimenting comes in that Tiffany mentioned. This is not a belief system. It is an experimentation that you can only verify for yourself by trying.
Sorry, forgot to
experimentation. Emphasize experiment, which is the point. It's an experiment. You try it. You try following, what your genetic imprinting shows with the conscious and unconscious side. See what happens. Collect that piece of data. Ignore it. Say, you know what? I'm going about it as I always have. I don't care. It's too hard. I don't get it. I don't believe. It's not my time. Whatever. Collect that data. How do you feel? There's signatures for each, to look at, that can kind of, the signpost that can keep us on either side. So this red side is our genetic inheritance, and it's goes back ancestors. It's like, if you think about a pyramid and we're at the top of the, like I'm at the top, Leisha's at the top. This design sun right here, this top gate on the red side, is all of my father's ancestors are below that top where I am. The design earth is the mother's ancestors. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to just pause this, because the birth order workshop that you're getting with the Lionsgate Summit is based on the father's lineage. It's only based on the dad. And so it's very, very interesting. And then there's that Leo masculine energy going on. So I hadn't,
it's the yang, yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't had that pyramid vision before. Okay, so sorry, you were going to show them about the earth too. So which one's the earth?
So these top four gates are what we're looking at today for this, for this session. it's the personality side, conscious, the conscious side, sun and earth. The top two gates. For me, it's 26.1 is in my personality sun, 45.1 is in my personality earth. We're also looking at this side of the sun and earth, the design side, the unconscious, that's below the level of consciousness, that until you get this map and start interpreting it and start messing with it and living with it and collecting the data, we don't get to know this side, right? This is my design sun, this is my design earth. So my design sun is anyone's design sun. Tiffany's too. I have Tiffany's chart. Tiffany's design sun is in gate 7. So that means from your father and all of the ancestors behind your father, your father's parents, their parents, their parents, their parents, all of it going down in the pyramid. All of that is what is inherited here. Now, the whole design graph is ancestral. It's like the rest of it is mainly your grandparents. We actually represent, we actually more closely mirror the design of our grandparents than our parents, which is this, there's this funny saying that's like, grandparents and grandchildren love each other because they have a common enemy. It's the parents, no one in between. So there's that's a real thing though, genetically, and then the design earth is the same, the pyramid, the mother and all of her ancestors. That's what all the genetic material we're inheriting. And if we think about it, I am one step in a genetic continuity of evolution. I'm one step in my, lineage. I'm one step and everything before that is in me. So, okay, I'll switch back to mine for now. So yes, so it's this yang, yin, the father is the yang, the son, it's like this, it's the masculine sort of idea. And then the mother is the yin and the more feminine. Yes.
Just to back up just a little bit, the numbers. So the circle with the dot is the sun. The circle with the cross is the earth. The left side, the red side, is the design side, what we're unconscious, we're not quite aware of, what might be brought to our attention and could be very revealing. That's part of what we're experimenting with. And in there's numbers, right? There's the 47.3. The 47 represents the gate. And so that's going to be very important data for you to know what gate your sun is in. And then will you describe the 0.3 for a second?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the lines. So in human design, it's a synthesis of a lot of ancient systems as well as modern systems. And so it's this binary, the synthesis of everything, which I love because I'm into both sides of those things.
I don't know about you, but if you like modern and ancient.
You like modern and ancient, this is for you. But that's the hexagram. That's the I Ching, level that comes in where there's 6 lines and there's this genetic continuity throughout. You see every single gate going down this has a point something. That's the line. It's either 1 through 6. So the top 4 gates, which is what we're looking at for today, is going to show you your profile, which is how you move through this world, the costume you wear in this world. So I have I'm a 1 because it's 0.1 on the sun and earth, personality side, 3. So you see here, there's a profile 1, 3, and that's a whole thing. We have an article, we have a podcast. There's a lot to do with that, and that will become important. However, it's kind of below, it's a little more of the substructure that we'll really be going into detail with today, because we want to really hit the suns. There's 2 sun imprints, and then the earth kind of has to be, you're grounded by the earth. So I'm gonna touch on that too, because they're mirrors of each other.
Okay, so I know that we don't want to get granular, but just to go there for a second, will you go over your gate 47 and just hover over it? Oh, yours does that.
Well, I have extra, yeah.
Yeah, so if you hover over the line 47 in your chart, if you have the free version, you'll still see that. You'll see the third line. So it says 47, the gate of realization. And then the third line, she's got Jupiter and Mars there. So if you're into astrology, you already have a taste of it. Astrology is kind of like the gateway for human design. So there's a lot of your astrology knowledge that will come into play with this. And I kind of like the idea of like the personality crystal, that this thing that came into play 84, is it 84 days? What's the right? 88 days before your birth. In astrology, we can make a chart for anything. We can do a horary chart for a question today. We could do a birth chart for a city. If you guys have seen some of our city articles, we could do a birth chart for literally anything, but you had one, but you just didn't know you had two. And so this one shows you that, right? The 47 is the gate. And then the third line, she's got some planets there. So yours is going to be very different, but at least you'll know where to look. And this is how you're going to help find the headline of your life, and be like, oh, that's why I feel called to do that. Or that's why I feel suppressed when I'm not doing that. So I just wanted to make sure everybody had a really good tour there. That's the design side. The personality side, the side that you're going to know, is the gray or black side. And so she's got her sun in the 26th gate. And she's got in her first line, what do you have there? Neptune and Mars?
So I wanted to mention that's actually not, so these are the planets where the gates, like my Neptune is in gate 9, you know.
Oh, sorry.
But what this shows is it shows a different thing. It's basically like, it's detriments and exaltations, which is not even a great term in human design because they're not negatives and positives. But that's kind of what those arrows show, which is, you know.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah,
it's a whole nuance, and that's okay. But you're still correct that this is kind of beyond the law. I can't hide that, or I probably would for today. But it is helpful to know that, okay, I'm gate 47, which that's my design sun. That's where I shine. But there's nuances to that. So we're going to go into that, which is the gate of oppression and realization. Okay. So then I'm in the third line, which each, line, one of 6 in every gate has its own kind of way that expresses, but there's continuity. All third lines are about, it's called the martyr. It's trial and error, bonds made and broken. It's, finding what doesn't work so we can discover what does. It's adaptation, resilience, and all of that. So, but the third line in the gate of oppression, 47.3, is about self-oppression. Okay, so that's kind of a next level. Just know that there's more to learn and see within that. But you unless you buy the different modules, which I've done over the years, I don't think that you would see the self-oppression part. You would see that title maybe, but not I don't know what you would see in the free version anymore, because I was like, I need it all. I'm an investigator. This line 1 is an investigator. So I like all the details. Okay, but yes.
Well, okay, can we take the body graph off for a second so they're not just staring at it, or do you need it to show for more examples?
I don't think I need it for now, but I can share it again if we do.
Okay, cool. I just didn't want you guys to have an hour of
looking at a body graph. Yeah, great idea.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about this. Where do we find our calling? Where do we find our headline of our headline? What do we need to know about that? How can we work with our sun?
Yeah, so okay, so I want to first talk about what does the sun, and it's kind of like, it's like in astrology, it's like in a lot of things. The sun is your core energy. It's the primary yang force that moves through you, that your life will express. It is like, it's ourself. It's also like what we do. It's like the theme of this incarnation in this life. This is what I am, it's where I shine. It's where my light is, the sun, right? It's how we express our light in the world. So that's just what the sun, whether it's design or personality, black or red, we have 2 sun imprints. That's what they represent. And so what you can do is you can look at your sun gates. Okay. So mine's 26 and 47. Tiffany's are gate 1 and gate 7. So we'll talk about that. And I want to show, I'll share an example of what those gates are. And so basically, first of all, you're going to look at your sun gates. Now, Is it, now this goes into other human design concepts, but you see some of these centers are white, some of these centers are colored in. That's the definition. Is it defined or undefined? If it's undefined, it's white. If it's defined, then it's colored in. Anywhere you're undefined is where you are here to gain wisdom in this life, but you don't have a fixed expression in that way. You don't have a consistent access to, this mental pressure. You don't have this consistent way that information and inspiration comes in. I do have a consistent way that I express, that I act, that I, share with others. There is a consistent way and a certain quality to the voice there. So anywhere you're white, you're under pressure to sort of, to amplify that center, whatever that function of that center is. And I definitely invite you to go into the center workshops and the other podcasts and different things that we have to explore that more, or get a human design reading. That'll do it too. Or we have a lot of other resources. So the undefined is where you're under pressure to kind of off gas that pressure in some way. And so what that means is you amplify in that area. However, over time you gain wisdom. It's inconsistent. Anywhere you're white, anywhere you're defined, you're colored in, that's a consistent way that you express. And you apply pressure to others. This isn't a doing, this is an aura thing. This is what my aura does.
Your very being applies the pressure. You're just, which you can
exactly
feel, and you can start to notice in other people. It's so trippy when it's like you got to
feel it,
and especially with people like that you've either had long-term relationship issues with and you haven't quite got them resolved. You're like, oh, or you start to notice like, oh, I feel pressurized by that person. And if they're not doing anything, but the more that you realize it and align with yourself, the less it feels like a schism and the more it's an awareness and you're just observing. I met somebody on the trail today that has all open centers, no defined centers at all. And I'm like, what an interesting life. Like, anyways, so yes.
The whole subject, we could do a whole hour just on that.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So, okay. So yes. And so that's just a quick thing. There's a lot to say about definition and, defined, undefined, and all that. The point for this though, is look at your personality sun first and foremost. What gate is it in? So mine is the gate 26, which is now there's a lot to each gate. It's like, you can see the title of the gate and that's kind of the headline of the headline, but you could literally double click and have pages and like as long as the earth under each gate, of what is actually all up in this. But in general, the gate 26 is called, it's the gate of the egoist. It's the taming of the power of the great, taming power of the great. But what it is it's the manipulation of memory. It's the kind of massaging the message for the good of the tribe. It's these rose-colored glasses where I only remember these good things. And it depends on where it is in your chart and all those different things. Tiffany has gate 26, but here's the difference. Is your personality sun in a defined or undefined center? So gate 26 is in the heart or the ego center. Okay, now again, we can talk about all about the heart and the ego center and all of that. But for this context, my personality sun is in an undefined center. Anywhere we have an undefined center, we do not have consistent expression of that function in our lives.
Let's show them. Let's show them your chart again.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, I'm all thinking that they can see my chart. You're right. Okay, yeah, this is a good time to show. Okay, so you can see my personality sun is gate 26. It's in line 1, just as an aside for context. But the gate 26 is the taming power of the great, the gate of the egoist. Okay, and again, it's manipulation of memory. It's all these things. Now, let's find gate 26 in the chart. Oh, here it is. It's in an undefined center for me. And the undefined center.
Just find it. I'm like 5 minutes later, I'm like,
oh, here it is. Like I just happened to find it. I happen to know where it is. I mean, you get to know it right after 3 years. And anyway, so that means that, remember, anywhere we're white in the chart where it's undefined, we do not have consistent expression. So what that means for where I shine is going to be intermittent. And it's going to be very heavily dependent on the correct other person. Tiffany allows me to shine because she invited me, which if you notice is my strategy. for all decision-making and moving through life. She invited me, it was correct. My spleen, which is my inner authority, I was invited and my spleen was like, oh my God, yes, like it was correct. And over time, it's totally been correct this whole time. And so my shining gets to happen because the correct other invited it out of me, but it's intermittent. If I'm just alone or if I'm in with someone else that, that activates different things, it's not going to shine in the same way. So one example that I heard with, if it's in an undefined center, it's like you're in a dark room with the shutters pulled and you wake up in darkness. Now, who opens the window and lets the sun in? And which window on which side of the house do they open? And how does that feel when now my light is shining from my undefined center due to this person, Tiffany, just opening the window? Does it feel fulfilling to me? Am I at ease with how my expression comes out when I'm interacting with Tiffany or around Tiffany? Oh yeah, that's correct. Like full body chills, Now other people, let me watch, because whoever can open the light of your personality sun, if it's in an undefined center, you need someone to open the shutters.
This is so helpful.
It's so helpful. But what can happen is if it can be a trap too, if you're in kind of this distorted frequency of not knowing who you are from this chart and not experiment, just not knowing. It's just unawareness. We didn't know. Now we can know. So it's like, if it can be this trap where you end up, whoever opens the shutters and sheds light, like you can get sort of hooked up in that, in an incorrect relationship, in an incorrect friendship, in a job, in whatever, right? And it's this mechanical dynamic that happens. If you're not aware of it, it is a handicap to have a personality or design sun in an undefined center. Handicap. It's no handicap if you know about it and you can watch it and experiment with it and identify, oh no, this is what it feels like when it's the correct person, Tiffany. This is how it expresses. This is how I feel. There's this elevated smoothness feeling. And there's just this accepting of each other. There's this whole thing, right? There's this enhancing of each other. That's what that feels like versus, oh, this is how the other, this other person, how it feels. And like, there's kind of it just feels a little distorted, little not clean, a little, like the tune is off, is what you start to feel more and more as you start to operate more correctly and collect the data. So if your personality sun is in an undefined center, very significant. Now let's look at Tiffany's. Her personality, every single one of these top 4 gates is in a defined center. Her light is constantly shining, doesn't require another person to open the shutters, right? And there's no both have their purpose. We need both. I am not built to shine constantly. I'm a projector. That's a whole other thing. Like I don't have consistent strong life force energy moving through me in the same consistent way all the time. I have to rest. I have to work less. I have to manage my energy in a certain way because I'm more efficient with my energy because I only have this much in this amount of time. Tiffany has these gates in defined centers. So she doesn't, it doesn't require another person to open the shutters in the same way. Now there's other dilemmas within, like, for example, in the chart that can come up, like Tiffany's split definition. And we're not going to get into that, but that requires the other to hook up different parts. So it's not that it's just cut and dry. It's like it all plays within each other. But you see this gate 1 is in her G center, which is a sense of love, identity, and direction. Okay. So that's her, she has a consistent sense of love, identity, and direction, and she puts that into the world. Now, is it distorted or is it clean? That's the experiment to start to follow. So you can put the clean. What's that?
I said, that's for you to decide.
Right. That's for you to feel. Right. But it's all about, where you shine, Tiff, is the creative, the gate of self-expression. Of course, you're a line 3 in your personality side, whole subject, but where you shine is the gate of self-expression, and you don't need the other to do that. That is what, is like your main expression. Now it's going to be grounded by the earth. So we'll get into that in a minute, because I see a theme with yours and mine that I definitely want to share, that I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So, okay. So let me just make sure I hit on all that. So If it's in a, yeah. So the point is, look at your personality sun first off. Is it in a defined or an undefined center? Because that's going to be the whole shutter example. Is your light shining constantly or is it intermittent? Which fits with so many other things in my design. Of course, mine's intermittent. It makes so much sense. You know, being a projector, being, you know, having the digestion I have, having the variables I have, which are these arrows, like having the rest of my design. It's like, oh yes, there's just genetic continuity that starts to happen as you look at these different pieces of the chart. But today we're just focusing on these top 4 gates. Okay. So yeah, there's can be this seduction factor that can happen if you have these top 4 gates and undefined centers. 3 of my top 4 gates, which is my main, you know, it's the headline of my life. It's your Incarnation Cross, which you'll see over here. I'm just mentioning, you see these numbers are actually these top 4 gates, which is 70% of what we're here to do and be, and 70% of what grounds us. Well, 70% of our expression, the suns, and 70% of what grounds us, the earths. That's what our Incarnation Cross is. So doing this, looking at your gates in the top 4, but especially your personality sun, that's the headline of the headline, and seeing if they're in defined or undefined centers. Okay. And I have a little exercise that I'll share at the end, just, and maybe we can, you know, post it or something too, so you can see it visually. Just to write out your things, where I shine, personality sun, design sun, what grounds me, personality earth, design earth. And then I'll share the other steps. Okay. So it's this whole, like, you are my sunshine, my only, if you're in if you have your personality sun or your design sun in an undefined center, be aware of when you think, you know, that person's your sunshine, and just be discerning, just start to watch, you know, are they bringing the light out in you? And how does it feel when that light is being brought out? Okay.
And
so
they're not your God, right? They're not your guru. They're not your teacher. Like, it's just a connection for the purpose of what? Transmitting a message, having a creative expression, doing something good for the tribe, you know, doing something good for yourself. But just like, I really like how you said, be careful that they're not your son, right? Like there's something to be aware of that, because how often have we how often have we fallen for that old trick?
Exactly. We get hooked into something that is meeting something in us, but we often, I find in the way it's shown up in my life is they're the only person that, you know, fills this blank. And it's like, no. Watch, because guess what? Going to a coffee shop or a grocery store can also bring my light out. It can also open the shutters because I'm just walking around in the public aura, and someone has something that ends up opening those shutters, activates my stuff in a certain way. Basically what it would do is it would hook up something that would end up defining this ego,
which I do,
so that I can express, which you do for me, because
I have that whole 2644. Exactly. So pretty much guaranteed a good time when we're together.
Totally. There's a lot with Tiffany and I's chart that is just beyond. Like we're both like lightning bolts left and right, because we both get things that we don't have on our own, which is the whole point of connection and humanity, you know, is connecting with the right others, sharing, bringing it into form, expressing, and seeing how you feel when you're expressing and connecting with different people. Because we're not all here for each other. We're here for certain correct others. And so it becomes about discerning that.
We're here for a good time, not a long time, is what I say.
I love that. I was actually thinking about how you said that just this morning, I think. So it's funny you brought it up.
Okay, so I brought it up in a bar a long time ago, and it stuck. It just lightened up my whole life. I was like, you're right. Like it's all small stuff. Just, it's okay, you know.
We're here to shine our light cleanly. Yeah, and that's the good time.
And how we shine our light has to do with our personality sun. So up until this point in the workshop, what hopefully you understand is where your personality sun and earth is, what gate they're in, and then your design sun and earth and what gate they're in. And then hopefully you understand you're going to go find your gate in the center and decide if it's open or
defined or undefined. Yeah.
Or undefined. And then what do we do?
So then you'll just, you'll obviously look at the name of the gate. Now, I want to take it to the next level of kind of getting to the headline of the headline, because it's going to require me showing you a different view of the body graph. But before I do that, what I'd like to do is mention the earths, because the where the light shines, it has to be grounded in the earth. There's this example of like sunlight has to be translated by the earth. When light comes to earth, it's converted to chlorophyll and it shows up in a plant, right? It becomes a plant. Everything coming from sunlight has to be grounded in like the matter, the material plane. So we can think of that with our own genetic imprint as well. Wherever my light shines, it has to be grounded into form, into like how it shows up in my life, what it actually comes out as, materially. So, and with the personality sun and earth, it's actually, there's this, I'm going to show you just for a second because it's relevant to the personality sun where we're going. There's this other view, this is called the ray of mandala. All this is, I just want you to know where it comes from. Now, first of all, this is my personality sun. Remember the black with the little circle in the middle, right? That's the personality sun. And you can see it's in gate 26. Now, you can also see that I'm a Sagittarius. So this is where the gates are different signs. I'm a Sagittarius. That's my personality sun. That is what sign you are. We can look at Tiffany's. Let me just get the view. Tiffany's personality sun is in gate 1. Oh, yep, Scorpio. There it is, right? Okay, so I'm just showing you that, and what you can look at is if the sun was in gate 26, which you see there's 6 lines here, this is the gate 26.1, okay, we mentioned the 6 lines, then it's going to be activated in the chart. Now, oh, yep, I have gate 5 in both a red thing and a black thing is gate 5. Yep, gate 5 has a red and a black. So I just want to show you where it comes from, because we're going to look at this in a minute to look at the headline of the headline, because this is divided into quarters. But what you can look at with the sun, wherever the sun was, oh, let's look at the opposite. There's the earth. It's a mirror. It's the mirror of the sun. So these things have to go together. It's a binary. It's the light and the dark and the yin and the yang, and like the way the whole universe works. You cannot shine without what is grounding you as well. Let me change the view back.
So I don't know if it's today in human design, but in astrology, because a lot of our folks are astrology rooted. It's like the North Node and the South Node. There's not one without the other, and one kind of dictates the other in a way. And there's not one you should focus on and one you shouldn't focus on. That you have to work with them together. It's just a polar situation that helps you see some of who you were and who you are and who you ought to be, the destiny that's pulling you forward. And so that's kind of how I'm receiving the information of like the sun and the earth, because we don't talk about the earth in astrology, know? So it's kind of a new concept for some of us here. So I'm really glad you're bringing this up.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up too, because I was aware of that, but you're kind of more the astrology expert. And so I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad that came up. But yeah, it doesn't when life is stable and grounded, it's more fun. We're here for the good time. We can be ourselves within this stability, right? I mean, so that's where it's the earth is very essential. And it's where we concretize our light. It's where we bring it into form, where we ground the sun's energy in our own bodies, how it actually comes out.
Concrete, like make firm. I was like, concretize,
which is such a funny word, but and it's so the earth shows us like the backbone of that stability. Okay. So again, if the earth is in an undefined center, and remember, this is the inheritance from your mother. Okay. So it doesn't mean she had the gate 22.3. It's just from her lineage, it's coming. And probably it was one set of your grandparents on either side of your mom. Now she may have had the same gait, but anyway, not to get it, you can go into genetic coding and like all this stuff with human design, amino acids at every level. It's insane. But for me, you know, I have an undefined, my design earth is in an undefined center, gate 22. Okay, it's a solar plexus. I'm not defined in the solar plexus. Gate 22 is the gate of grace, the gate of openness. So my realization, first of all, depends on the other, opening the shutters. But my realization, in order for me to ground the oppression and realizations that I inherited from my father's lineage, I have to be social. However, I have to be invited to be social because it's in an undefined center. I'm a projector. That's my strategy. I have to be invited, and then splenic authority will say, yes, that's correct. So that's what grounds my oppression and realization. Okay. Yeah, so what grounds me is being social. And that absolutely feels true in my life, like 100%. Now, if you look at the personality earth,
just
yeah,
say like Leisha is the, I don't want to say leader, but she's like the leader,
the gatherer,
the gatherer of Human Design Austin at this point in time that we're recording. And so Human Design Austin is a group that gathers, and she guides it basically. And so that is something that is very grounding to her, that she doesn't miss, that is guided well. I mean, people leave feeling better, they have a good time, there's interesting conversations about people that are studying this. And so that's a way that I see that showing up for her. Mm-hmm. Of course, it would be great to have a big live workshop and look at everybody's specifics, but hopefully you guys know us well enough to be able to see, oh, this does make sense here, you know? So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's great. And what's funny about that group, I was invited to take over that group. I didn't start it. I'm not here to initiate. That's a different type than a projector.
Same with
none of us are here to initiate unless you're a manifestor, and then even that is nuanced, just as a type, you know, throw to type. But I was invited. That's my strategy. If I said, hey, I want that group, you're moving out of town, I want that group. Ooh, distorted. No, not, it wouldn't have gone well. And I would be bitter. I'd be like, why doesn't anybody come to anything? Like, what, this like group sucks, you know? And it's like, well, okay, but let's go back to, did you wait for the invitation? So just to throw that kind of little, it always goes back to strategy and authority, everything. You will find the correct other who opens the shutters or not, or grounds you or not, or through strategy and authority, your unique decision-making strategy and authority. That's what I love. It's very practical tools, you know? Okay, so my personality earth is the gatherer. Now this is in a defined center. So this is my one gate in my 4 top gates, 70% of who I am and what grounds me, these top 4 gates, I have one in an in a defined center. So I have this consistent expression and this consistent grounding in gathering. I have stability brought into my life by gathering with Tiffany and April, gathering with the Human Design Austin people, gathering with, you know, my tribe, my family, gathering with like, you know, other human design community people. Like, I mean, there's so many examples, you know? So my manipulation of the memory, which is where I shine, rose-colored glasses, kind of selling it, you know, but it's like for the good of the tribe, for the good of everyone, is grounded by gathering with people, gathering knowledge, gathering information, gathering experience, right? And it's the 45-1, so it's gathering information, it's investigating, because that's what the investigator is the line 1 is the investigator. Let's do yours, Tiff.
Can you give us an example of how gathering, I want to say incorrectly, maybe drained you in the past?
I think like initiating gatherings has gone both ways, you know, or maybe it's like nobody showed up, kind of like what I was saying, or they showed up, but it wasn't like a good, something happened or whatever.
That's good.
Yeah. I think that's, yeah. But again, because it's, you know, it's interesting, that question too, that I want to kind of integrate, because it's in a defined center. So it does have this consistent thread throughout my life that I can look at. Whereas my gate 26, I can think of very different like swings of how that shows up because it's inconsistent. It's not in a defined center. Now, Tiffany, let's look at yours. Okay, Tiffany is the cross of the Sphinx, which is going to become important in a minute when we look at the mandala again, because it's actually the direction and it's the splitting point of the quarters of the mandala, which is going to give us our headline of our headline. So of our lives. Tiffany, your personality sun is in the creative, the gate of self-expression. Again, this is very high level, very just core concept, foundational. We could go deep into that. It's in a defined center. So you shine consistently in being creative and expressing yourself creatively.
Which you guys have seen over the years.
We see that. It's very consistent.
Yeah.
It's reliable because it's in a defined center for you. Remember the gate 1, here it is. Consistent sense of love, identity, and direction that she expresses creatively that we all get conditioned by, right? I mean, we're all conditioned. We're living in a conditioning field. Are we getting conditioned correctly? Are we ourselves within that conditioning? Are we just swept over and taken over and oppressed, right? 47.3, always talking about oppression. Are we being oppressed or oppressing ourselves with incorrect conditioning and just not knowing this is who we are, not knowing where the resistance is that we're creating with our minds? If we're experiencing resistance in our lives, it's because our minds are jumping in and not realizing where the correct operating manual is. So Tiffany, where you shine is creative self-expression. Now, what grounds you is being receptive so that it can show you the direction of yourself. Gate 2 is it's also in the G center. Now, every gate in the G center, you see Tiffany has 6 gates in the G center. These are all like, this is love. Like Tiffany brings so much love in all these different ways into the world to all of us, especially those of us with an undefined G center, with an undefined and inconsistent sense of identity, love, and direction. Oh my gosh, like the sense of direction that I get to feel because Tiffany's correct for me. I was invited and it was right. It's like delicious, to me. And so there's this, where you shine is this creative self-expression, but what grounds you and brings that into the world is being receptive and following your own response for your own direction, because you're a generator and that's what your strategy is. So it all kind of weaves together. Okay. All right.
I want to just ping in there too. You were like, I didn't start the HD Austin group. I didn't start Wise Guys. I wrote for Wise Guys.
You responded to it.
I responded when they asked me to buy it. I responded, yes. I was receptive to it, and I kept.
And then the sacral said,
Right. I feel so lucky. I'm sorry for everybody that's not sacral because it's so easy.
I know if you're, yeah. Well, and I love that you said that. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
I love that you said that because that's such a key little just boop that I want to just hone in on and shine light on for a second. You said, I love being sacral because but everyone, no matter what you are, that's the point of this. You start to love it. If your solar plexus defined and that's your authority and you have to wait till the viscous honey, like the bubble rises to the top of the viscous honey before you get clarity and understand what you need to do. And, you're not supposed to act out spontaneously and things. At first that can be like, oh my God, but you start to love it.
Yes.
You start loving that you're nothing but solar plexus authority, just like you, like, thank God I'm not sacral. I wouldn't want to be sacral, but you, yes, you are sacral. It feels like, yeah.
I know. I've seen the memes of making fun of all the sacral beings. It's so easy. It's just ask me a yes or no question. We can move right along.
And if you're surrendered to it, it's just, but that's the point, is no matter your definition, as you clear away the gunk that's all the resistance of the missing piece that you haven't known was there, as that starts to clear away, it's like, you would not want to be anything but exactly that. I have a friend who their personality sun is in gate 60, which is the gate of limitation. And he was like, oh my God. Like, I mean, he's just starting into it. And he's like, limitation is where like I shine, like what? But as he becomes that, you love that. So if there's anything you don't love in your design, it's like, okay, note to self, still keep experimenting, because that's the point. The general thing is love yourself, but it's so much deeper than just, well, you know, self-love, self-care. It's like, oh, it's deep, because
Really,
you start loving everything about you.
you know,
What's that?
it's like know yourself, you
Know yourself. Yes.
and love yourself, of course. Okay. So I want to talk about the crosses too.
Yes. Okay. So the mandala. So the personality sun is the main headline of the headline. Okay. So the way that you can look at it now in the bodygraph, even the free version, you can look at the mandala view. Okay. You just go to the view and you select Rave Mandala. Now, Tiffany is, I want to show you real quick again. She's the cross of the Sphinx. Now, remember, this is the top 4 gates, the 1 and the 2, the 7 and the 13. Those particular gates are called the cross of the Sphinx. Now, that is a certain, like, it's like love and direction for humanity. Okay. And the reason the Sphinx is so important is because it actually divides the quarters that on the Rave Mandala. So Tiffany's personality sun is gate 1. She's a Scorpio, right? This is the beginning of quarter 4. So quarter 1, now 13, remember we said 1 and 2. So look, there's her personality sun. Now remember, it's a mirror. So the mirror is her personality earth, gate 2. And then her design sun is gate 7, design earth is 13. So you can see this makes a cross. So we all have this cross. We all have this way we shine, but it has to be stabilized and brought into, has to be concretized on this opposite way. And they work together, they're mirrors. And so this Sphinx is this cross. It's the 1, 2, 13, 7. And the reason that I want to just really, and again, this is like next level human design knowledge, but I want to get to the personality sun, the headline of the headline. So you look at, so this is quarter 4, 1 to 13. There's 4 quarters. Quarter 1 is 13 to 2. Quarter 2 is 2 to 7. Quarter 3 is 7 to 1. And then quarter 4 is 1 to 13. Now, since Tiffany has personality sun in 1, that's the beginning of quarter 4. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about each quarter because that is going to give you the headline. So in quarter 1, this is the way that all of humanity has evolved as well. So there's some of us in quarter 1, some of us in quarter 2, some of us in quarter 3, some of us in quarter 4. And quarter 1 is about, if you put all this, well, I'll do that in a second. Quarter 1 is about it's called the quarter of initiation. It's the quarter of mind. It's the quarter of thinking. Now, can that be a dilemma if you're like undefined head nausea, but you're in this quarter? Oh, hell yeah, it can. Because your purpose is fulfilled through mind. Now, it doesn't mean thinking about things that don't matter and all that stuff. Just saying that, if you're in this quarter, if you find your personality sun, the black circle with the dot in it, look at what quarter it's in. So by the Sphinx gates.
Are the quarters, I'm just kind of, is it 13 to 2 is always quarter 1?
Yes.
So for everybody looking at their charts, 13 to 2, that's the first quarter. I just happened to be born at a time when mine were like perfectly on the right quarter, like not right.
The Sphinx. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, because mine's not that, and I can show you that in a minute. Okay, so yeah, anyone born in this, you see the yellow. This is why I love looking at Tiffany's, because you can see the Sphinx right there. I think on mine, I don't think it shows. Let me see if it just shows the Sphinx, like where they start.
Also curious.
No, it doesn't. See, 13 to 7 are not highlighted. So that's why it's neat to look at Tiffany's first, because you can see these quarters. Now these other yellow too, but that's just because they're G gates and the G is the yellow center. So you can see the cross right here, or your cross, the Sphinx, and that's where the quarters begin and end. So 13 to 24 is quarter 1.
Yep. Okay.
2 to 7 is quarter 2 for everyone. That's just how the wheel is broken up. Okay. So if you're in quarter one, it's about purpose fulfilled through mind. So you would say, oh, look, my personality sun is in quarter one. I was going to pull up an example, but it's probably not a good idea because I can't hide the name. And so that means if your personality sun is in this quarter, you have to find answers mentally before you can go on. It's about developing the mind and thinking. Now that can be a trap, that can be a dilemma, because the mind is the thing that provides all the resistance and gets in the way by speaking the language of our open centers, where we're more vulnerable, where we're more sensitive, where we're here to gain wisdom, where we're conditioned by others. So you kind of have to watch, like say you're say you're an open head Ajna. My sister has an open head, completely open head, an undefined Ajna with, I think, one gate, and she's a generator. She's in the quarter of thinking. Now that can be difficult if you're not aware of it, because she's here to respond and wait for, and just follow her sacral response. She's not emotional. She doesn't need to give it time. She just follow her sacral response, like you, Tiff. But she's here to figure things out in her mind first. So you can see how that can, if you're not aware of it, that can be a real cluster bleep. So, okay. So the second quarter, so what you would do is, if your personality sun is in the first quarter, you could say purpose fulfilled through mind, through developing mind, through thinking, through correct thinking. And then you kind of look at what dilemmas could I see in my chart. Again, you can also, get a reading, get a mini reading, all of that stuff. And we can just do the 4 gates at the top. Quarter two, so we look at the Sphinx gates again. We got 2, 13, 7, and 1, Tiffany's gates, 2 through 33 here. So 2 is the beginning of the second quarter, quarter 2, and it goes through 33. Quarter 1 was the quarter of initiation. Quarter 2 is the quarter of civilization, doing, bringing things into form. First, we have to think about it. This is about the whole evolution of humanity, and it goes around and around the quarters over and over and over in this golden spiral of evolution, going to the next level, going to the next level, going to the next level, right? So we kind of think of it that's how I sort of see it in my mind. Quarter 1 is starting out the cycle, the spiral. Quarter 2 is now we need to, bring this into like a physical reality. So if you're in quarter 2, it's purpose fulfilled through form, through manifesting, through getting it done. Now, what if you're a projector in this quarter? What if your personality sun, right? Like Kate, our friend Kate, she is a projector in the quarter of civilization, doing, bringing things into form, right? Yeah. So it's like, that's a dilemma. If you're not aware of it, then, she'll spin around her whole life like a generator, doing, or like a manifester, trying to bring things into reality, initiating and all those things. So it's just, again, it's purpose fulfilled through doing, through getting things done, but you still follow your strategy and authority, always under strip everything else off. Strategy and authority is going to lead you to everything. You don't have to have any of this knowledge to just follow your strategy and authority, because it's what you truly are. What'd you say?
I said, but you're special and you get this workshop. So.
That's right. You get extra.
Okay, that's the second quarter. I want to talk
the second quarter.
Third quarter.
Third quarter starts at gate 7 and goes through gate 44. Okay, so we see that. So if your personality sun is in quarter 3, this is the quarter of duality, or relating, bonding with others. So first we've started out, we've been thinking, now we have the idea in our mind, we're bringing it into form in the quarter of civilization and doing. Now we're connecting with others and relating and bonding, making more. Okay, so if you're in this quarter, your purpose was fulfilled through bonding. You will have a theme of bonding no matter what is happening in your life, relating, and what role you identify with will be related to how you're bonding with others within that role. So if your personality sun is in this, your purpose is, you can write, my purpose is fulfilled through relating and bonding. Now, the third quarter, so we've initiated, we've worked it out in our mind, we've brought it into form. Now we're making more and we're relating to others. What's the last step before we move up to the step 1 again on the spiral, because it continues on, is the fourth quarter, the quarter of, it's called mutation. It's the quarter of transformation. It's purpose fulfilled through transformation, because we now have to measure Everything we learned in our mind quarter, in our doing quarter, in our relating quarter, we got to synthesize all that and bring it up and then pass it to the next level of the next quarter one, the next start of initiation in the spiral of evolution. So if, so Tiffany, she's gate one, it's gate 1 through 19. Tiffany's gate 1, so she's in the quarter of transformation. That means your purpose, Tiff, is fulfilled through transformation, through mutation, through taking it to the next place, the next plane, finding the higher meaning. Like there's this overwhelming kind of need to feeling that I need to overcome this so that I know why it makes sense in the larger meaning. And that's anyone in the quarter of transformation is going to feel that way. And I'm in the quarter of transformation as well. And we text all the time. It's like, I have several friends in every quarter, but it's like the amount of transformation of myself and then others because of myself, right? It's transformation of self. And then that transforms others because we are transformed. So, but it's so much mutation in our own lives, and which fits with the other things. Yeah.
I feel like as you mutate and change and align with yourself, the more mutated you are for other people. Yes. You know what I mean? As I've gone along, yes. It's like your very presence. I don't even have to say anything. I can be receptive and just sit here and listen to you during a session. Let's say that you hire me to do a psychic reading. Things will come to me, but I can just sit here and listen. And that alone gives you your own ability to change. And so if you're not on I don't want to say it like this, but if you're not on that frequency of wanting to evolve and heal in the way that I like to, it's going to feel awful to you. You're not going to want to be around me. It's going to stir you up to the point where it's like, that's too much. But if you're like, I am ready for a master breakthrough, just hanging out a little bit, it changes the way that you see, think, experience things.
That's
we
right.
have another friend that we call her a lightning bolt. So I don't know do you know which quarter of mutation she's in? Is she also, which quarter?
I haven't looked. No, I might be able to look on my phone. Yeah.
So these are the 4 quarters. So the idea, will you pull up your rave mandala and so they can see the difference?
Yeah. So here's, it's,
go ahead.
1 through 19 is the quarter of transformation. I just know that now because it's the Sphinx gate. And you can, anyway, mine is gate 26, the personality sun. It's the personality sun. What quarter is the personality sun in?
Okay.
That will tell you. You purpose fulfilled through transformation. So we got purpose fulfilled through mind, purpose fulfilled through doing, purpose fulfilled through relating, purpose fulfilled through transformation. And so to wrap it up, you can do this, kind of becoming aware of your sun and earth gates and what quarter you're in. We can do this exercise and we can post this, but it's basically like the headline of the headline dash. Purpose fulfilled through.
Let's take the thing off for a second.
Oh yeah, thank you.
And then I want to make a worksheet for everybody based on what you're saying. So we'll do that. We'll do a Wise Skies worksheet, but I would love to stop interrupting you.
I would love to stop responding to everything you're saying. No choice, right? So what we'll include on the worksheet, the headline of my life dash. Purpose fulfilled through, boom, what quarter are you in? Are you at purpose fulfilled through mind and developing your mind and thinking correctly? Purpose fulfilled through doing and bringing things into form, getting it done correctly? Purpose fulfilled through relating and bonding correctly? Correctly being the key word. Purpose fulfilled through mutation and transformation correctly? Because you're going to have that no matter what, but are you having the correct of each of those things? So headline of the headline, purpose fulfilled through blank. And then where I shine. And then you would put your personality sun and design sun. Just look at the name, taming of the great, taming power of the great, the gate of the egoist, and then oppression and realization. Now, what grounds me? What grounds my light? Gathering together, being social, being open, having grace. Okay. And that's it. That's the exercise. And then just ponder that. Just see what awareness that can bring. What can you see when you're aware of that? Very simple headline of the headline of your life. You can also get a human design reading. We have many ones. We have, and you can always say in your form, I want to look at my top 4 gates, And of course, we have the Wise Guys podcast and articles, and awareness is key. Once you know, you can start to see. So that's it. Headline of the headline.
And how much fun is it to see the mutation? You know what I mean? Like, I just love it. And it's so juicy. It's so juicy when one of you guys gets like that aha moment where you feel like, oh, things make sense all of a sudden. It lights me up, right? Because that's where I'm in that quarter. So I feel I hope.
And it's the self-expression creatively that you get to see in the other. So of course it's like it lights you up. Anyway, I just see your personality sun shining through with that, with what you just said.
Oh, so guys, I hope that you have really benefited from this. I know that human design can be crazy at first. I know it can be overwhelming. Some of you guys have been experimenting way longer than I have and have much more knowledge. So I appreciate your patience watching me have my own ahas with Leisha. And I hope that, you know, the innocence and hope of that is like fun for you. But I just so value Leisha teaching us, because one thing that I think is really important is that you get it from somebody who is making an effort to have a correct frequency with themselves, to align with their own best self. And that is really the intention of this whole Lionsgate Summit that we're recording under, is that you can align with the best version of yourself. And this is the secret, you know, we can use the moon cycle strategies that Celeste has taught us. But if we are operating from a distorted frequency, if we are operating from trauma, drama, pain, sorrow, if we haven't worked on our own mutative healing process, we're going to continue to create from a place of confusion and distortion. And we're going to be like, why isn't the moon working on my behalf? You know, well, maybe we can use this information about the personality sun to help us come back into a more correct frequency. Then we can use the information from the birth order workshop. That's not going to change. You were born in an order, right? That is helpful information. It's a key on your mystery. It is a clue that will help you understand yourself, align with yourself, and come back into this being who has a calling, who has a reason to be here, who has a beautiful offering for the world or for the self, right? So I guess the main thing with our human design workshops is I just want to remind everybody, like you said, Leisha, it's really about loving yourself. And you can't unless you know yourself. And yourself is very different than the homogenized marketing crazy train that's out there. Both Leisha and I, being in the cross of mutation, quarter of mutation, have had severe physical crazy making experiences that nothing answered. Medically, Western, Eastern, monasteries, everything, right? Like the whole. But this information has helped us to heal and align with our true self. And it's just not out there because there's not a homogenized way to be you. So I know that this is a little bit of a like, whoo, like, what just happened with your mind? I know it's going to take a little to unwind. It's like learning astronomy, like, whoa, you don't have to understand human design at the level that Leisha does. But wow, wouldn't it be amazing if you loved yourself a little bit by looking into your personality sun and asking yourself those questions. So I thank you so much, Leisha. I value you. I love you so much. And I love the way that you share information. And guys, have a great, why am I crying? All of a sudden, have a great
like I have full body chills. Like
it's just mind-blowing what this stuff can do for people, really. So I'm always changed by it, and I'm always amazed by it, and I hope that you guys are too. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tiffany, for bringing all of this to us. And transforming us. Okay.